Hello everyone, welcome to Advanced Knowledge Systems and a warm welcome to AKS IAS Academy, and it offers examination coaching for UPSC CSE, State Public Service Commission, SSC Combined Graduate Level and CLAT examinations. And about me, I'm Sandeep Bhushan Tumala, and I take up the analysis of the Hindu newspaper, that is the daily newspaper analysis of today's, that is of 28th of April 2021. And throughout my session, I would be emphasizing on the keywords and the key phrases, wherein we will try to identify the factual, analytical and conceptual questions which will be critical for UPSC prelims perspective. And also, while you get into the mode of imbibing the keywords and the key phrases, answer writing for the mains examinations, your answers would be precise and concise, and thereby you would score higher marks in the mains examinations. So this session at AKS IAS Academy will certainly help you to crack both the prelims and mains of 2021. And before we get into the DNA of the newspaper, we will be focusing on the quote of the day. And the quote of the day says that the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. So what is very important is you have to keep moving forward and then forget about the one which has been over and then start thinking about the one which is supposed to take place. That is, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Now we'll get into the DNA of the newspaper, and here the news is in regards to the vaccine being administered for all above the age of 18 years. And this decision has been taken by the center that the vaccination could be allowed for the persons above the age of 18, above the age of 18 from May 1st, 2021. And this decision taken by the government or the central government is amidst the virulent second wave of COVID-19 pandemic situation in India. And the decision taken is been by a meeting between the Prime Minister and by the pharmaceutical company representatives, by the doctors, union ministers in charge of healthcare and medicines, and officials from multiple nodal ministries were part of the meeting and taken the decision that from May 1st in India, persons above the age of 18 would be vaccinated. And if you look at the vaccination drive which has started in India in 2021, that is on January 16th, the government's plan was to inoculate or administer 30 crore population of India by August 2021. That is 1/3 of the adult population by August 2021. But if you look at the government's plan to inoculate as on April 19, 2021, only 8% of the population has got administered by the vaccine by only one dose. And if you look at the fully inoculated, that is 2 doses, only 1% of the entire population of India has been inoculated. So the vaccine strategy or the national vaccine strategy taken up by the government to go ahead with the inoculating 30 crore is still not been achieved. And now we will look at the immunization phase 3. So the center or the government of India has gone ahead with the 2 phases, and now the government of India would be looking at the immunization phase 3, and that is in regards to the national vaccine strategy. And this phase 3 of the national vaccine strategy will enable the vaccine manufacturers to sell off of their vaccine to the state governments and open markets, and the rest 50% would be sold to the center. So this is the strategy, or this is the point which has been taken up, or the decision in the national vaccine strategy of the immunization phase 3, that the vaccine manufacturers will sell their vaccine, the production, to the 50% to the state governments and open market, and the rest 50% which will be sold to the center is mandatory. And if you look at the private hospitals now which is supposed to get the vaccine, will have to procure, or the private hospitals have to purchase their supplies of vaccine exclusively from the 50%, wherein the vaccine manufacturers will sell their vaccines to the state government and open market. So the 50% which is from the vaccine manufacturers to the state government and the open markets is now to be utilized by the private hospitals. So definitely there is a scenario or the decision taken by the government in regards to the immunization phase 3 of the national vaccine strategy, that 50% to the state government and 50% of the vaccine will be sold, which is mandatory to the center. And this will give an option for the private hospitals to procure the supplies of the vaccine, so that the decision taken up by the government of India to inoculate the persons above the age of 18 from May 1st would be a reality. And another news in regards to the Vande Bharat mission. And this Vande Bharat mission is or has come into existence for repatriating Indians who have been stranded abroad due to the COVID-19 pandemic situation in the year 2020, which it has started. It has launched, or it was started on May 7th, which we have seen during the COVID-19 pandemic situation and the lockdown, not only in India but across the globe, and thereby Indians being stranded abroad. And the government of India has taken the Vande Bharat mission to repatriate all the Indians from abroad since May 7th. And this program, that is the Vande Bharat mission, is one of the largest excavation of civilians by a country, by any country in the world. So this is the one which has been achieved by the government of India in regards to the Vande Bharat mission, is one of the largest evacuation of civilians by a country. And now the Vande Bharat mission is in the middle of phase 10, and Vande Bharat mission has surpassed, that is, it has crossed the large scale airlift of 110,000 people, which it has done in the year 1990 at the onset of the Gulf War. So it has crossed that evacuation of the civilians by India through the Vande Bharat mission, has also surpassed the 110,000 people which were evacuated in 1990 because of the onset of the Gulf War. So the current one, which is in regards to the Vande Bharat mission, which is in the midst of the phase 10, has international and domestic schedules, which will be operating till October 31st, 2020. So these points or the keywords are crucial for prelims UPSC perspective. And the lengthiest of the Vande Bharat mission amongst Vande Bharat mission 1 to 10 is the Vande Bharat mission 6 and 7, which has lasted for 61 days. So the lengthiest of the Vande Bharat mission is the Vande Bharat mission 6 and 7, which has taken the entire evacuation of civilians from different countries was 61 days. And the one which was part of the evacuation of the civilians is Air India Group, and it has had the inbound flights and also the outbound flights. So there were Air India Group was operating both the inbound flights and the outbound flights, and they had 11,523 inbound flights to carry 18.19 lakh passengers, and the 11,528 outbound flights to carry 13.68 passengers. And the Air India Group, that is the national carrier, has taken up the entire project of evacuation of the passengers or the civilians, which is air transfers under the Vande Bharat mission, was supported by Air India Express. So this is the keyword, that the Air India Group in the Vande Bharat mission, which it has evacuated the civilians, that is Indians from abroad, was supported by Air India Express, is the keyword here, supported by. And the Air India Express has used the B737-800 fleet to lift the agricultural products, especially in regards to the fruits and vegetables. And these fruits and vegetables, that is the agriculture produce, has been supplied to West Asian countries, Singapore and Kuala Lumpur. So we are focusing on the Air India Group, and the one which has supported the Air India Group is the Air India Express, which has gone ahead with lifting agriculture produce especially fruits and vegetables, to West Asian countries, Singapore and Kuala Lumpur. And it was not just helping the rural farmers and the NRIs, but the aim of the Vande Bharat mission was to keep the supply chain intact. This is the crucial information that you need to understand. What was the purpose of the Vande Bharat mission? It is not just evacuating these civilians, that is Indians who have been abroad in the process of inbound flights and outbound flights, but it was also not only just helping the rural farmers and the NRIs, but the aim of the Vande Bharat mission was to keep the supply chain system intact. This is the one which you need to understand while you are focusing for the prelims as well as mains perspective, the importance or the role of the Vande Bharat mission in regards to the keeping intact the supply chain system is the one which we need to focus. And this is the one which we need to focus is the another one is the keyword, the transport bubbles, or it is also called as air travel arrangements. So Vande Bharat mission was part of the transport bubbles or the air travel arrangements. This is the transport bubble is a temporary arrangements between any two countries, and the aim of the transport bubbles, which is a temporary arrangement, is the aim is to restart the commercial passenger services. Please do understand, the transport bubbles or the one which is also called as the air travel arrangement is the aim to restart the commercial passenger services when regular international flights are suspended, and such as we have seen because of the COVID-19 pandemic situation. So when the regular international flights are suspended because of the COVID-19 pandemic situation in the year 2020, we have seen the civil aviation has got into the mode of the transport bubble system, and that is to restart, or the aim is to restart the commercial passenger services. And such kind of arrangement, that is the temporary arrangements in regards to the transport bubbles taken up by the Government of India through the Civil Aviation Ministry by the Vande Bharat mission. Such arrangements were established with various countries such as Afghanistan, Bahrain, Bangladesh, Bhutan, and also we have seen even in Europe, that is in France, Germany, and also we have seen in Southeast Asian countries also, and then Seychelles, and also in regards to the Africa, we have seen that is in Kenya, Ethiopia, Tanzania also, and the Middle East or the West Asian countries. Again, if you look at UAE and also the UK and US were part of the transport bubble, that is the temporary arrangements which was taken up by the Civil Aviation Ministry, and it was in regards to the Vande Bharat mission. So this is the one which we need to focus from prelims perspective and also mains, that is Vande Bharat mission is the keyword which you need to focus. And now we'll get into the another news which is in regards to the Navy, which has seized the narcotics that is worth 3,000 crore, and this 3,000 crores of worth narcotics which was seized by Navy was of 300 kgs and which was of worth of 3,000 crore in the international market, and it was seized from a fishing vessel in the Arabian Sea. And this is the keyword for the prelims perspective, that the Navy has seized the 300 kgs of narcotics from which among the following is, that is Arabian Sea, and the one which was patrolling in the Arabian Sea is INS Suvarna. Again, this is the keyword for prelims perspective, which among the following vessel was patrolling in the Arabian Sea to encounter the any kind of suspicious movements is the INS Suvarna. And in turn, while they have encountered the fishing vessel with a suspicion movements and which was carrying a 300 kg of narcotics, was the INS Suvarna, the ship's team has conducted boarding and search operation, and in turn they have identified that the ship was carrying 300 kgs of narcotics and it was seized by the Navy. And the boat later on has been escorted to the nearest port of Kochi in Kerala, and further investigation will be taken up. And that is because this boat or the vessel, probably the Navy says that it is a major catch from the perspective of disruption of illegal narcotics smuggling routes. That means you have the smuggling routes in regards to the illegal narcotics, and the Navy says that this vessel might have emanated, might have started from the Makran coast. Makran coast, where is Makran coast? It is in Pakistan, the coastal of Pakistan. Here you can see it. I have taken this for geography map based and for better understanding of conceptual that how the narcotic smuggling routes are from the Arabian Sea of entering into emanating from Makran coast, from Pakistan, from the coast. I'm not saying from Pakistan, from Makran coast towards India, Maldives or Sri Lankan destination. So they might have the destination getting into India or further into Maldives and Sri Lanka, and this might have emanated from Makran coast. So this is the coast, Makran coast, which is in Pakistan, close to Karachi. And this illegal narcotics will have an impact on the human cost and on the drug addiction. Please do understand, the narcotics or the illegal narcotics will have impact on the human cost and the drug addiction. And if you look at the trade of the narcotics, that means the repercussions of the trade in regards to the narcotics, which is illegal narcotics, will also feed or will have a kind of helping hand to the terrorism, radicalization and for the criminal activities. So this is the one which the Navy has taken into consideration, that is INS Suvarna, which is a surveillance patrol in Arabian Sea, has countered, or it has successfully gone ahead with intervening the suspicious movement of the ship which was carrying 300 kg of narcotics, which would cost which would also have a drug addiction and which will also be involved in the terrorism, radicalization and criminal activities. So this you need to consider from internal security. And when you are looking at internal security, again focusing in regards to the narcotics, that is illegal narcotics or illegal narcotic smuggling, which will impact the human cost, drug addiction and also which will help the terrorism, radicalization and criminal activities. So you can link the internal security, that is the narcotics, with terrorism. How narcotics helps in evolving terrorism, radicalization and criminal activities. So as a civil servant aspirants, you need to focus this from internal security and focusing or linking it with narcotics and then with the terrorism or radicalization. And this is again for your better understanding that Makran ranges. So you have the Makran ranges because we have focused that the Navy was saying that this might have emanated from Makran coast. So rather than coast, now we are also focusing on the ranges. So where are the Makran ranges? It is this point, which is of Pakistan and Iran. Pakistan and Iran adjoining in the Arabian Sea. We can see it from the, close to Pakistan or the west of Pakistan and Iran. So you have the Chabahar Bay here. When we are talking about Iran, yes, Chabahar port. And then you have the Pos Bay, Beris Beach. So these are the Makran ranges. Please do understand, I did talk about the Navy was saying that it was emanating from Makran coast. But we are focusing the ranges which cover the Makran coast also. And there is another news in regards to the Indo-Pacific. So, European Union Council has approved a conclusion on the strategy, that is in regards to the Indo-Pacific strategy. And the Council of European Union has approved an European Union strategy for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. So the keyword what you need to focus for prelims as well as mains perspective is European Union strategy for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. And European Union Council has gone ahead with approving the conclusion of the European Union strategy for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific because it wants to reinforce its strategic force. It wanted to reinforce its strategic force, and it wants to have its presence and it wants to have its actions in the Indo-Pacific region. Please do understand the importance of the European Union in the Indo-Pacific, and that is why we need to focus from mains perspective, that is the European Union strategy for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region is because the European Union Council wants to reinforce its strategic focus, its presence and its actions in the Indo-Pacific region. And the European Union Council also has an aim in the strategy for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific is to contribute to the regional stability and to contribute to the security, prosperity and the sustainable development in the Indo-Pacific region during or at the time of rising challenges and rising tensions in the Indo-Pacific region. So you need to have the entire understanding about the aim and the wants and the aim of European Union Council to have a strategy for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific is because, I repeat or reiterate once again, that the European Union Council wants to reinforce its strategic focus, presence and action in the Indo-Pacific region, and it wants to aim to contribute to regional stability, security and prosperity along with the sustainable development during the rising challenges and tensions in the Indo-Pacific region. So it is very clear that we need to focus the aim and wants of the European Union in the Indo-Pacific region. And in regards to the cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region, the European Union Council has said that the current dynamics in the Indo-Pacific, please do understand, the current dynamics in the Indo-Pacific region has given or it has led to the consequences of intense geopolitical competition. And when it has given rise or the repercussions of the current dynamics is focusing or it is leading towards the intense geopolitical competition, and in turn it is surging to the increasing tensions which are in regards to the trade and supply chains. And also these rising tensions, which is because of the intense geopolitical competition, has also created increasing tensions not only in trade, supply chains, but also in the technological, political and security areas. So all these keywords are crucial, that while you are writing or while you make a short note for the mains examination, how the Indo-Pacific region is a geopolitical competition and what is that European Union Council has gone ahead with the cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. It talks about what did it say, because it says that there are rising tensions in regards to the trade, supply chains, technological, political and security areas. And it also has mentioned about that not only the 5 but the 6th one is the human rights are also been challenged in the Indo-Pacific region. And these developments, that is the kind of increasing tensions what we have focused, the 6 increasing tensions are the one or the developments which are threatening the stability and security of the region. Please do understand, once again I reiterate, the tensions, increasing tensions in trade, supply chains, technological, political and security issues along with the human rights. These rising tensions have created a development or have brought in a development which is increasingly threatening the stability and security of the region. And the European Union Council says that this stability and security is not pertaining only to the Indo-Pacific region, but it is beyond the Indo-Pacific region, which is directly impacting the European Union's interest. And that is why, when it is directly impacting the European Union interest, that is the stability and security is impacting the European Union's interest. That is why the European Union Council has gone ahead with a strategy for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. This you need to understand. Then this is the conceptual understanding about why the European Union has gone ahead with the strategy for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region is because it says that all these trade, supply chain, technological, political, security, human rights are threatening the stability and security of the Indo-Pacific region, and not only the region but beyond the region of the Indo-Pacific, and it is directly impacting the economic European Union's interest. And that is why the European Council or European Union Council has gone ahead with the cooperation, strategic cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. This, I hope you have understood the importance of analyzing the European Union Council strategic cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. And the European Union Council has also given a task to the high representatives and the commissions to put forward a joint communication on cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region by the month of September 21. So look at it, how the European Council is focusing very seriously the stability and security, which would also directly impact the European Union's interest. Thereby, it has brought in the task of for the high representatives and the Commission to form a joint communication on cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region by the year, that is by the month of September 2021. And the European Union Council has certainly the long-term focus. So we will now look at the what are the long-term focus by the European Union Council for the strategic cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. And it says that the renewed European Union commitment, this is the key phrase, that is because of the renewed European Union commitment in the Indo-Pacific region, which it wanted to have a long-term focus, and this long-term focus would be based on upholding the democracy, human rights, and the rule of law, along with the respect for international law. So we need to understand the four keywords which are the renewed European Union commitment to the Indo-Pacific region, which it wanted to have a long-term focus, is to have or to uphold the democracy, human rights, the rule of law, and the respect for international law. These are the four keywords which you need to focus are the renewed European Union commitment. And the European Union Council also have the aim to promote effective based multilateralism and to support the ASEAN centrality. So look at, we did talk about ASEAN centrality couple of days back. That is in regards to the, we have focused that during the Raisina dialogue, the Singapore foreign minister has focused about the importance of ASEAN centrality. No doubt, India has also supported the concept of ASEAN centrality. And now the European Union is also reiterating its support for ASEAN centrality. So when I'm talking about this keyword of ASEAN centrality, please do understand how important it would be for prelims as well as mains of UPSC perspective for 2021 prelims and mains. The keyword is, the new keyword is ASEAN centrality. And the European Union now, which is having a long-term focus with a renewed European Union commitment, will work together to mitigate or to lessen the economic and human effects. And the European Union will work towards ensuring inclusive and sustainable socio-economic recovery. Please do understand here, the European Union will work together. Keyword. There are two keywords here, work together and work towards. I repeat, work together and work towards. And they would wish to work together in regards to mitigating the economic and human effects, and they would, European Union would wish to work towards inclusive and sustainable socio-economic recovery. This is the very important phrase. Inclusive and sustainable socio-economic recovery. This keyword, inclusive and sustainable socio-economic recovery, is the one which European Union would wish to work towards, which is now its renewed European Union commitment. And European Union's approach and engagements, now it wanted to look to foster the rules-based international order, to have a level playing field, and to have an open and fair environment in trade and investments. And it wanted to have its approach and engagement towards the reciprocity of how the entire rule-based international order will take place. And it wanted to strengthen the resilience and to tackle the climate change and to support the connectivity with the European Union through the global supply chain system. That is, in regards to the inclusive, sustainable, socio-economic recovery, supporting connectivity by inclusive and sustainable socio-economic recovery. Through this process, it wanted to support connectivity with the European Union. So you need to also have a focus in regards to what European Union has looked at its approach and engagement as part of the strategic cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. So all these 7 points are very crucial or critical for mains examination. So I would say this is from international relations, and again in regards to the European Union, and further focusing from European Union Council, how it has taken a conclusion to approve European Union strategy for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. So I hope this session was very informative, knowledgeable one, especially emphasizing on the mains and also the prelims perspective of UPSC. So I would say a very big thank you to all. Good luck to you all. Do maintain consistency, stick to your schedule, and take care of your physical health and mental health. And do not forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe the AKS IAS Academy English Medium YouTube channel, and also have access to the website and the Telegram link of AKS IAS Academy. And then see you again tomorrow with the daily news analysis at AKS IAS Academy. Till then, thank you, goodbye, and then take care.